Welcome everyone to the first session of this seminar series on policy engagement for biodiversity. So I'm very pleased to welcome you today, and thank you to both the Oxford Policy Engagement Network, the Biodiversity Network, and also the great team of people on the screen at the moment who have been working very hard to organize this seminar series. But Tricia, if we move on to the next slide. So I just wanted to open the series just by beginning with two very short slides, just to start everyone on the same page for thinking about, what is policy and what is policy engagement and why might it be important? So just to begin, when we first think of policy, we might think of civil servants or government ministers or the Houses of Parliament. And certainly these are very important, this is a very important center for policy making within the UK. But policy making happens all over the place. It happens in local governments, in the devolved administrations of Scotland and Wales. It happens in NGOs, it happens in businesses. Everyone kind of participates in this policy making processes in various ways. So just to begin, I wanted to offer a definition of policy that I found particularly useful, which comes from Susan Owens, which is that policy is defined as both the principle-based commitments towards a given outcome, but also the mechanisms of how that outcome is achieved. So the policy instruments, because policy has this kind of dual meaning of both the kind of aims or goals that one might want to achieve, but also the instruments and the implementation of those to reach those goals. Policy instruments can be all sorts of things. According to the IPBES assessment, which is the Intergovernmental Biodiversity Platform, policy instruments could be legal and regulatory instruments. So these are things that we're quite familiar with, national laws that might constrain behavior or regulations that might control the actions of industry. They also might be rights-based instruments or non-written norms that people just adopt through their behaviors, such as not eating meat, for example. And then, of course, economic and financial instruments and social and cultural instruments. And policy making takes place in, often is described as taking place in a cycle, but scholars of policy critique the idea that policy takes place in a cycle, but it can be quite useful to think about policy as having different moments in time. So sometimes a policy is being developed, sometimes it's being implemented, sometimes it's being evaluated, and academic research can support policy making at these various moments in the life of a policy.
Thank you very much, Jasper. So I'm just going to give a quick overview of the background and what we are going to discuss today. So recent years, we have seen a step change in biodiversity as a priority for governments worldwide, and decisions by global organization and convention is often based on new scientific information and best practice from around the world. And it can have a strong influence on policies implemented at national level. However, there might be impediments to this implementation, such as because of lack of financing or lack of capacity at national level. And that's why collaboration between NGOs, government, universities, and communities is required to address these multiscalar and cross-sectoral dimensions of biodiversity. And as we know, there are so many actors that shape policy, from governments, NGO, CSOs, research institute, and universities. And they produce many policy and government responses as well. So the challenge is for all these actors and layers to mesh together and provide a coherent and synergized policy mix.
There are many actors who influence the policy sphere, especially for biodiversity conservation. And one of the main ones is the government in the UK. So at the national scale, the UK government consists of the parliament and the government. And within the government, there's the non-political civil services that works with the government to design and deliver policy. The UK government is organized into departments based on particular areas of expertise. The Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, in short DEFRA, is generally the main department that develops strategy and policy for environment-related issues such as biodiversity and climate change. And DEFRA is constituted of 33 agencies and public bodies, examples of which are highlighted on the slide. And in most cases, these agencies help in designing and implementing the policy for biodiversity in the UK. Another point that Jasper has already mentioned is, and to keep in mind is, especially at the national scale of policy engagement in the UK, is the devolved administrations of Northern Ireland, Wales, and Scotland. This is important because based on the researcher's geographical area of interest and research, it might be best to engage with the devolved administration. At the local scale, the UK government structure is not very straightforward because it has evolved over time. But engagement generally at the local scale can be done through the county councils. Oxfordshire has an Oxfordshire County Council, or through the district councils and the metropolitan districts, just to name a few. And lastly, there are many other environmental nonprofits and research centers and think tanks that could also influence policy. Examples are shown in the slide, which are not exhaustive, but provide an idea of such entities that act at different scales of policy engagement for biodiversity conservation in the UK that researchers could engage with.
So why might policy engagement be important for academics? Again, there's a whole range of reasons why you might want to engage with policy. It might be because you believe that decision-making should be based on good, rigorous evidence and research, and you'd like to support that. It could be that you've committed to your funders that you're going to have impact through your research, and policy engagement is one way of delivering that impact. It could be because you believe in the kind of broader social purpose of universities, and you'd like not just knowledge production to kind of contribute to knowledge for knowledge's sake, but actually to have an impact in the wider world. But also engaging with policy can help you improve your own research because you can learn about policy concerns and real world concerns. Or you might gain experience for working outside of academia at a later date. So I think there's a whole range of interesting reasons to engage with policy. I'll point you towards the Policy Engagement Network, which is the funders of this seminar series, and definitely explore their website and check out the resources that are available there.